Welcome back to part 2 of this tutorial. So it is a refurb, so the cupboards probably will stay in the same place. All we're doing really is changing the finishes and all of that stuff. Alright, so the way I do my kitchens is I'll start with a box. We'll just drag it to about here. Alright, we'll make this 900 high. I think let's also just create a floor before we start, just so we can see where the floor ends. So for this floor, it'll just be in this area, so we'll click on line and we'll just do it around this area. Just do it a little bit out the lines just to make sure it's all enclosed. Alright. Just untick these two and make this an editable poly. Just always make sure it's at 0 axis on your Z axis. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, we'll just change the color. So we've got a 900 high counter. So what you're first going to do is create an editable poly from this. Go to your vertices, or go to your lines first, and we'll just map out where the other counter starts. So we'll click here, we'll ring that, connect that. Cool. So now that we have that, and we need to make a countertop as well. So I'll click these two faces, hold shift, bring those up a little bit, clone to object to make it a new object. We'll just adjust that one's pivot, and we'll bring that down. We'll create a shell here. We'll make this about, let's see, probably about 30 millimeters thickness. And let's just slightly bring this up so we get a bit of a gap there, just a bit of a shadow gap. Alright, let's do the other cupboard next, and then we can start doing the actual cupboards. So once again, draw out a box. Make this 900 high. Create an editable poly. Let's just make sure these are very close together, otherwise it's going to look very separate. It'll look silly. Cool. And we'll create a shell from that. Alright. Cool. Alright, so now we can start creating our cupboard. So let's start this side. So we've got two cupboards, a drawer and a smaller cupboard underneath the drawer. So I'm going to select this one's face. Just bring that back. Bring the x-axis back by about -30. And then we'll hold shift once again, bring that face out, clone to object. Alright, so we've got two cupboards, So let's split this into 3, connect these. So we have cupboard, and then we'll make another connection here. Let's just make that on 1. So we have our drawer there. Alright, so we'll bring this down by about -10, and we'll just bring it a little bit back so it's underneath your countertop. We'll create a shelf for that. And then we'll go back to our editable poly and we'll open chamfer all of these lines where there's a gap for the different cupboards. We'll do that for about, you can see there they're quite big, so we'll do it at about 3.8. Let's make it 4 millimeters. Cool. So we've got those cupboards. Actually, I think the 4 looks far too big. So let's just make that 3. Alright, we'll move it a little bit back just so it looks a bit more under the counter, so they don't look so thick. We'll just make the thickness about 15. Alright, so then we'll do the same on this side. So before we move this whole unit back, oh no, it should be fine. Alright, so let's move it back -50. Detach this face. So this has 2 bigger cupboards. Cool. So the cupboards only seem to start from about there. There is a gap obviously for the opening of the other cupboards. So we'll just move that face a bit this way. For some reason this looks a lot bigger than that, but I suppose so. Alright, we'll connect that. Bring these top faces down by about -10. And we'll open up this chamfer to 3. And we'll add a shell onto these cupboards as well. Cool, so that's fine. Let's just fix this up so it doesn't look so silly. So we'll select all those vertices. And we'll just make sure it's joining the other cupboard. I like to always leave a tiny gap just so you get more shadows and more realistic looking surfaces. Alright. So what I also want to do is create a plinth underneath here. So you need to bring your cupboards up to a point. So I'll probably bring them up by about 50. So we'll click there. We'll go back to our editable poly. Click our vertices and bring this up by about 50. And these ones as well. Cool. Alright, so the next thing we'll do is our door handles. So very easy, we'll just use cylinders for those. So let's start here. Okay. So where's our cylinder gone? Cool. So we'll just adjust the height and the thickness to whatever kind of looks correct. Alright, so let's make the radius 5 and the height about 250. Well, let's make this about 7. Okay, and then we'll just offset that from the cupboard. We're going to click E for rotate, A to angle snap on, hold shift, bring that down to 90 degrees. We're going to copy that, not instance it. And we're going to bring that up and adjust the height just so it touches the cupboard, and the radius, make that about 4. And we instance that, and then we've got our handle. Let's just group these together and we'll go around and instance them to each cupboard door. Rotate with angle snap on. Just get a better view here. Cool. And then for our drawers, I do think now looking at them it is a bit thick, so we'll just open this group. Let's make the thickness about 5. And at least they're all changed because they're instances. And just for this cupboard door. Cool. So what I want to start doing now is adding turbo smooths onto all these kitchen surfaces. Just because if you have them very blocky like this, it's not very realistic. So let's start by selecting this unit. Okay, to make it easier, we'll go back to editable poly. Just control backspace to delete that line. So now that we have our shell, we need to add an editable poly on top of that. We're going to click our edging. We're going to highlight all of that so it rings that side. And once again, we need to, because these will be very hard surfaces, so we need to bring these lines as much towards the edge as we can, which will be 99. And we do that for all sides. Select that edge, ring. Okay, now just click there because it'll remember what our last setting was. Ring connect. And we add the turbo smooth. Cool, and we'll just click explicit normals. Alright, and then same for these. So let's do, to make it easier, we'll do this box first. Once again, we can delete that. Click on all our edges. Connect them by 99. And add our turbo smooth. For some reason it's not straight here, so let's just check that. I think I didn't straighten all the sides when I moved it back. Cool, so that's fine. And our cupboard doors, same thing. gets a bit more tedious, so let's just Alt Q those. Ring, connect those, ring, connect these two, and then we can just travel down all three, connect those, and these sides we need to go into the middle, just ring it and connect. So now we should have some smoother surfaces. Something I've done wrong here though. Let's just check this out. For some reason I'm just going to pause this and fix this. Cool. So we've got all our cupboard doors there, which you can see now looks much better. Same process for this side. It does get a bit tedious, but I wouldn't suggest doing this for all your surfaces, as it does just make them look a lot more realistic than having a flat surface, which you don't really get in real life anyway, for most surfaces. Cool. And our last one. Cool. Alright. So now that that's done, let's see what we can do next. So I see we will probably have kitchen cupboards above. So we'll have to do those. First of all, let's do our sink. I'll show you how I do that. Alright, so we'll go to our sink. So this whole area that's cornered off for the sink, we'll select our box. Doesn't have to be exact, and we'll bring that up. So the whole point of this is to now cut through all the surfaces in order to create a sink that can be deep into the surface. So in order to do that, I use the Boolean object. So we've got this. Let's just make a copy of this box, because you will need to in order to cut through that surface, the top surface, as well as the inner unit. Alright, so we've got, let's select these. We've got our top surface and our box. So we select our top countertop. We go to compound objects, Boolean, subtract. You add your object on which you want to use to cut, and we select it. Cool. So that's what we get. That's perfect. So now you can see our gap starting to form for the sink, but we need another one because our sink will go deeper than that. So we select this box of the same size that we used, and our inner unit, same process. Bring it down, compound, Boolean, subtract that, and then we have space for our sink, which is perfect. Cool. So now we need to create our cupboards above. So this example hasn't really given us a lot to work with. I'm not actually sure if we even have to create cupboards above. So let's leave that out for now. We will just create a shelf with some nice splashback. Alright. So we'll make the shelf, we'll start very simple. We'll select we'll just make it that whole unit. Cool. So let's adjust the sizing to be this whole unit. Bring that up. Make the thickness about 50 and we'll make that 300 deep. Bring that back. And let's just make this about 35, sorry. And we'll bring it down here because we want it to be about 500 millimeters from the countertop. So we'll click this on, the offset mode, and 500. Cool, there you have it. And then once again we'll make this a turbo smooth. Okay. Alright, so for the splashback, I'm just going to pause to see which one I need to use. So this is the splashback we need to use, hexagon shape. So I'll do this with my floor generator. I do have the full version of the floor generator, which you need to buy. The free one only comes, I think, with the standard shape, but this one really does help. So we'll click line. We'll just do this whole area. We'll extrude this up 500 because that's the space we've left. We'll go to our modify selection, floor generator, and we'll select hexagon. Alright, so now we start bringing down our radius. I think these probably are about 50. We'll extrude them by about 2, bevel them about 2, and our grouting can be about 3 millimeters. You can also offset the X and Y. Which does help. Cool. Now we've got our hexagon splashback, which is great. And we'll do the same on this side. So we'll copy the shelf. We'll copy that because we are going to adjust the size. Alright, let's just adjust the size to be starting from that window. And then we're going to copy this hexagon splashback. Don't know why this one's not. Let's bring our shelves up a tiny bit. And then for this one, we'll just go back to extrude. We'll add an editable poly onto that. And now if you see, if we are changing that, it's very useful, just it changes the floor generator with it. Cool. So now that that's done, we can start adding our things such as our taps, our sinks, cups if need be, microwave, and then we also need to do our textures. So let's add a few goodies first and then we'll do our textures. Alright, so I've downloaded a sink and a faucet, so we will just import those now. Alright, so we'll go to File, Import, Merge. We'll go to our folder when we have our sink here. I downloaded these from 3D Sky, which is a great page for downloading 3D models. Alright, so we'll just place this here. We'll just flip this. Put it in place, and then we'll just adjust it to be the size that we needed to. And then we'll import our tap. And we'll place it on top of the sink next to it. Let's just move this slightly forward. We'll just have to move this box slightly in, so just make this an editable poly again. Just to give space for the tap. Cool. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Let's just set up a camera so we can see kind of what our view will be. So we're going to go to cameras, Corona camera, because I'm using Corona as my rendering engine. And we'll just place it here. We'll drag it up. We'll just have to fix this piece here. And let's start zooming out. Alright, so as you can see, these walls are getting in the way. So what we'll do is select camera here. We'll go to environment and clipping. We'll enable your clipping, your camera clipping. And we'll just drag this up. And as you can see, our walls are slowly going away. And let's just increase our field of view a little bit. It's quite difficult with small spaces, you have to kind of play around, but this will be fine for now. What I also like to do is click on vertical tilt just to get your lines straight. Cool. Alright, so let's start adding our textures. I'm just going to bring this frame up slightly just so you can see it. And I just want to fix this gap here, just so you can't see the sink underneath. So we'll just select this and the inner part. Select all three and the sink. Alright, so I'm just going to draw a line from this edge to this edge. And just put a shell on there. Okay. It's not straight, so let's just make that, just bring it out here and see what's going on. Alright. This is not really how I like to work, but sometimes you just have to fix small little things that the eye can see. Cool. Should be fine. Alright, let's go back to our camera view. Cool.